America's Test Kitchen
And at home.
we use aluminum foil for all sorts of things, like covering a pan for steaming veggies, making a foil pouch for steaming fish, enclosing wood chips for grilling, or making a foil sling for baking brownies. In this video, we're going to answer all your burning questions about aluminum foil. Can you reuse it? Is heavy duty better than regular? And what about recycling and safety?
First up, Lisa with our foil shopping guide, and then me with some fun foil facts.
Aluminum foil is literally a super thin sheet of aluminum. Some people call it tin foil, and it used to be made out of tin 150 years ago. But aluminum is more bendy and malleable, so they switched. Reynolds was the first brand to introduce it to home cooks, and even today, Reynolds has over 50% of the market share for foil, and that is a big chunk for one brand. Store brand foil makes up another 40%. Our testing lineup included products from Reynolds, an eco-friendly foil from If You Care, and popular store brand options from Costco, Target, and Whole Foods. We looked at both regular and heavy-duty versions. To test, we used foil to line baking sheets and wire racks for our miso-marinated salmon recipe. We made foil slings for baking brownies, we made pouches for wood chips, and we reused a single sheet of foil to cover a mixing bowl, a baking dish, a baking pan, and a baking sheet, crumpling and flattening it out again each time. We rated each of the foils we tested based on performance, how sturdy and resistant it was to tearing when cooking, baking, and covering containers. We also rated based on ease of use. How easy was it to open and close the box and neatly tear off large pieces of foil? So, does a name brand make a difference, or is saving a few bucks on the store brand the way to go? What about the heavy-duty stuff? Let's get into it. The first factor we considered: regular versus heavy duty. Now, heavy duty foil is advertised as being thicker, but it's also roughly 30 to 50% more expensive per square foot than regular foil. Now, at almost every brand we found, whether it was a name brand or a store brand, offered both regular and heavy duty foil. To zero in on thickness, we visited Mike Tarkanian, a senior lecturer in the Department of Material Science and Engineering at MIT. There, we used a micrometer, a device that can measure extremely thin materials, and found that on average, the heavy duty foils were 38% thicker than the regular foil of the same brand. We also used a texture analyzer to test the strength differences between a double layer of regular foil and the more pricey heavy-duty foil. Now, for the most part, the thicknesses of all the regular foils were all the same, and so were the thicknesses of all the heavy-duty foils. Only the foils from If You Care were just a bit thinner. So which foil should you buy? In our tests, we actually found that heavy-duty foil was slightly more resistant to tearing when it came to trickier tasks like wrapping pointy wood chips in a foil pouch, but not significantly so. Both styles ripped when we used them to line a baking sheet and then used a metal spatula to scoop up a fillet of broiled salmon. For basic tasks like lining a baking sheet or making a baking sling, we found no performance differences between heavy-duty and regular foil. So is there any need to stock both types? We don't think so. A double layer of regular foil was actually stronger than a single layer of heavy duty. So you can always just double up for the occasional tougher tasks and avoid spending more on a product you don't really need most of the time. We sometimes like wide, heavy-duty rolls compared to the standard 12-inch regular rolls. Now, if we want to cover broader pans or wrap big hunks of meat, that makes it more easy. But otherwise, you can skip heavy-duty foil. Another big factor, how the foil gets cut by the box. Aluminum foil boxes come with a built-in cutter to help cut each sheet. We wanted them to cut easily and evenly, and that was not always the case. One eco-friendly brand used cardboard serrations, and those were virtually useless. Our favorites had cutters made of metal serrations, and that made a big difference. We could tear a sheet of foil straight across in one fell swoop. So, metal cutters, yes. Cardboard cutter, nope. But those serrations can be sharp. You can cut yourself when you reach in the drawer. So we actually really preferred brands that covered those sharp points with a flap closure that was thick and durable and tucked in securely. What about store brands versus name brands? Bottom line, with foil, we learned it doesn't really matter which brand or type you buy. Details like an effective cutter or a high-quality box made certain brands slightly easier to use. But what we found was that inside the box was actually very similar from brand to brand, product to product. While we recommend almost every foil we tested, we particularly liked the sturdy boxes and secure closures on Reynolds Wrap Everyday Aluminum Foil and Reynolds Wrap Heavy Duty Aluminum Foil. And if you have the space for a large container, the Kirkland Signature Reynolds Food Service Foil is a great bulk option with a high quality, well-made box. Now here's Hannah to answer all your aluminum foil questions.
First up, can you reuse it? Yes. I am always a proponent of reducing waste wherever possible, and aluminum foil is no exception. A rep from Reynolds told us you can reuse their foil and even wash it if it's gotten a little bit dirty. But if it's been in contact with raw meat, raw eggs, or other foods where cross-contamination could occur and you don't want it to, it's best to just throw it away. Next up, is aluminum foil recyclable? Yes, aluminum foil is recyclable if there's no food residue on it. If there's a little bit on there, you can use soap and water, wash it off, and then recycle it. If it's a big old mess, just throw it away. Next up, shiny versus dull. Does it matter? No. When aluminum foil is made, one side comes in contact with polished rollers and comes out shiny, while the other side comes out dull. Some say you'll get a different result depending on whether the shiny side or the dull side is facing the food. We tested this and found it to be not true. And finally, parchment and aluminum. What's the difference, and do you need to stock both? Parchment paper is used somewhat similarly to foil, but we still think it's useful to keep both of them around. Here's why. Aluminum foil is better for higher moisture foods like juicy meats or vegetables where parchment might get waterlogged. We typically use foil instead. Aluminum foil is also better for high heat grilling and cooking in your oven. Most parchment products, like our Witter here from King Arthur, are advertised to be safe to about 425 degrees, which is not high of enough heat threshold to get you under the broiler, for example. Definitely not for the grill. This would clearly burst into flames. For grilling, aluminum is definitely your best bet. In favor of parchment, on the other hand, our senior research editor, Paul Adams, told us that unless there's enough fat involved, food tends to stick to aluminum foil, but it does not stick to parchment. So for really sticky jobs, we are going to be reaching for parchment. We also use parchment when cooking with acidic ingredients. Aluminum foil should not be used for cooking with foods like citrus vinegar or tomatoes, which are highly acidic and could leach metal into the food. So to summarize, here is a handy dandy graphic. Round 1, cooking juicy meats. Aluminum foil, yes. Parchment, no. Round 2, baking cookies. Aluminum foil, no. Parchment, yes. And with high heat cooking, aluminum foil, yes. Parchment, no. And finally, cooking with acidic ingredients. Aluminum foil, no. Parchment paper, yes. And that's all, folks. Thanks for playing.
For more information about aluminum foil
And a ton of great recipes.
check out the links below and visit americastestkitchen.com.
Is the aluminum foil treating you right in your kitchen? Let us know in the comments.
Like and subscribe so you never miss an episode.
And that's a wrap.